Waiting for Jim, right?
I think so on this one, right?
So Jim is going to be running a little bit behind, but he will be joining us shortly. So he said that you could start the meeting and we'll just note when he arrives.
Okay. Everybody else all set?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yes.
Okay. Brad, you all set? You're mute. You're all set, Brad?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Rebecca, you all set?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The April 15 Planning Board meeting will come to order at 7:03. Do I have a motion?
So motion for May 5.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wally?
Aye, Wally.
Yes. Brad?
Aye, Brad.
And Bob? Okay. The town planner with an update with the remote meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This open meeting of the Groveland Planning Board is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. For this meeting, the Groveland Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. All supporting materials are available on the town's website.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Okay, public hearing. 106 King Street, King Metal Development. Kenneth Thomas, applicant, is requesting approval of a preliminary subdivision plan for a 10 residential lots. Motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, so motioned and with questions.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye,
Aye.
Brad.
Yep.
Aye, Wally.
Wally, question?
Yeah, question, is it still a 10 lot and has it been reviewed by a third party? This is the first hearing on it, right?
It is, right now, it's a 10-lot proposed subdivision. We have had conversation and discussion with the Conservation Commission. And unfortunately, we're being delayed by the fact that they haven't been able to meet or do a site walk or hire their consultant peer review to review the wetland line. So we are likely going to be modifying the plan, but I'd like to go forward and discuss the 10-lot just to get the proposal out for people to discuss. And then we can, I also have a conceptual sketch of the 9-lot. We're going to reduce it by 1 lot. But we're really waiting to have the Conservation Commission review the wetland line before we move forward with a final revised plan. So it was reviewed for 10 lots. And we have the review from TEC. A lot of those issues will be addressed when we revise the plan. We have not revised it completely yet. I do have a conceptual layout, but not a final preliminary plan set.
Okay. I'm sorry, just did we fully open the hearing, right? We got a vote, everybody yay?
Yes.
Okay, so, yeah, so is this, just so I have it straight, is this the property that was the old Adamopoulos property?
Yes.
All right, so this is the property, and for the rest of the board that may not have been on when we first took a look at this back in about, I'm gonna say about 20 years ago, actually. It was Taylor Turbide that produced a sketch, a conceptual plan. It wasn't approved by the board, but it was somewhere, correct me, Bill, I think it was around 8. It was an 8-lot subdivision, I think, then. And during the conversations with the board, there is a substantial amount of wetlands there, and the plan just never returned back to the board after the first glimpse. And then there was talk of the property being developed recently that was going to be not 10 lots, but a 4-lot subdivision, very large acres that were going to be like little mini horse farms and advertised as such. Is this the same property?
It's the same property, but I'm not aware of any 4-lot proposal.
Yeah,
I am aware of Port's, actually I have copies of, I used to have copies of the Port's, I think they had 8 or 9 lot. They had both, 8 lots and a 9 lot. The 9 lot was probably the A&R lot though.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah, it never got past the conceptual stage due to the wetland area in the back. I mean, it's substantial, and then it just went dormant for, what year was that plan? Was it 20 years ago?
I think it was, yeah, early 2000, 2005, in that range.
Yeah, okay, yeah, off a few. Okay, onto that. And yeah, and the last proposal was going to be a 2, each lot was about 2 acres or so, and they were little mini horse farms with big corrals in the back, since it's farmland in the back. Is part of this still in 61A and the abutting properties, the rights,
Yeah,
with the Blueberry Farm and all that?
actually, the reason why we were able to get 10 lots is that exact reason. We added some acreage, about 2 acres to the property from the Fiore parcel, which was going to be taken out of 61A. Now, in conversation with the Conservation Commission, with our discussions with them and the meetings, we're going to probably eliminate that 61A addition. So we're going to drop it back down. We believe we can get 9 lots. I reconfigured the roadway and the lots, which I will be able to show a conceptual sketch later on if you'd like to see it. But we're not ready to submit that revised plan just yet. We still want to go back before conservation before we finalize that plan. But we do have 10 lots here because we were adding some land, which made it possible to get 10 lots.
All right, so just a point of order question for everybody, and throw it up for the board. If you know off the bat that you're going to have a significant change to the plan by eliminating of lots, and again, we're also at a disadvantage run remote. You can't really, see these big plans yet. I'm looking at a picture of what Rebecca posted, but it's hard to really get a glimpse for this. Does the board want to continue, Bob, that's to you, on the applicant's filing with a 10, we're knowing that it's going to be a change, or do you want to wait and just continue the hearing to a change when the final plan is solidified? Otherwise, because things are going to move around, aren't they, Bill? Property boundaries, et cetera.
Yeah, we're gonna, lot 5 and 6, as you see on this plan, are gonna change substantially. We're gonna get rid of that little finger of roadway that TEC had mentioned in their report. Actually gonna shorten the road up by about 75 feet to make more room for lot 6 and 7 and 8.
Yeah. What's the road length now?
Reconfiguring the lot for CBA and all that. So
yeah.
Again, we really want to have also another meeting with the conservation, which is next week if they actually have the hearing, to discuss the peer review of the wetland line. It was actually, we thought it was going to take place in the last month or so, but for some reason it never got set up. So we also had to cancel our site walk due to the current situation.
Okay, so what's the road length, Bill?
Right now it's 905. We're going to cut it back to 825.
All right, max road length is 750.
Correct. We're asking for a waiver.
And what's the reason for the waiver?
Just because of the wetlands, the way we had to shape the lots. in the roadways to avoid the wetlands. We have to kind of push things away from the walls to get the, the 9 lots that 10 lots we're proposing now, but 9 when we finally come back.
So if you went to 750 feet, what would it look like? Because that's the, that's the reg.
Correct. We would probably have 8 lots at that point, yes. Because
Yeah,
we lose
I
some
think-
frontage. What's that?
My personal opinion, based upon the study of this property from a while back, and remember, Port Engineering and Taylor came in with it, but it never went anywhere. It was just a conceptual, kind of throwing darts around with the board. And they came across the same exact problem, that it was somewhere between 6 and 8 lots, not anywhere near 10. And I think you might be being a little bit aggressive in asking for a waiver, not to benefit the town, but to benefit, squeezing a lot or two in there. But that's up to the board. But Bob, back to your point of order question, how do you want to proceed? I think this would be a really good opportunity to get to a conceptual versus a preliminary, because then you can beat it up pretty good, just like kind of we might be doing here shortly. And then once the final draft, so to speak, is nailed down with conservation, then jump into preliminary. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of engineering fees, I'm afraid, going back and forth to expenses to the applicant, but also to streamline it without a couple of dozen changes that don't need to happen just yet.
Well,
I think we'd like to proceed with as the applicant, we'd like to proceed with the preliminary to be able to get these discussions out there. I mean, we are going to revise the plan based on the first review, and I expect to come back, continue the hearing and come back once we get that revised and reviewed again.
Okay, and is TEC, is he on board tonight? I don't have a visual.
So,
Who's here for TEC tonight?
Peter Ellison is here for TEC.
Okay, Pete, have you put together a report yet on the board, or did you just get this thing?
Yeah, I did issue a report based on the 10 lot subdivision. That was probably a couple months ago at this point. If you'd like, I can highlight some of the big picture comments.
yeah, that'd be good, Pete, if you could do that for us.
Okay, no problem. So Bill's already mentioned there's work within 100 feet of the buffer zone to wetlands, so they'll be kind of permitting that with Conservation Commission. We've already talked about the length of the road being in excess of 750 feet, so that would require a waiver. And it sounds like the board would like some kind of explanation for why that waiver would be justified. Here. I'd like to see a stormwater report. I know that's typically part of the definitive filing, but my initial gut take on the size of the stormwater features was that they might be a little bit small for a subdivision of this size. So I definitely want to see the stormwater report for this one. I know the water department that was one of the questions that we were unsure of, if there's adequate pressure in the system in this area to support, fire suppression with hydrants and water connections to the houses. So
Hey, can I hold off on that one second?
Sure thing.
Mike or are you there? How did your meeting go with the water department?
And he's looking to, if we do some improvements for the town, and he's finding out if that will give us adequate volume and pressure.
Okay.
Ryan, who works for the town.
Yeah, so
we're waiting to hear back from him to see if everything we've proposed and we discussed with the water department is going to be adequate for that.
Okay, yeah, that's, all right, no problem. That's what I just want to put out there, because I know you went to the meetings, you had a meeting with them,
Yes.
so you're working with them right now to see if you can do water or will have to do wells, right?
Correct.
All right. All right, Pete, sorry.
That's okay. No, I'm glad we could clear that up.
Yep.
So, because this is in Zone 3, I believe, of the Aquifer Protection District, it would require a special permit. For work in that zone. I had some comments related to parcel 12A, but it sounds like based on what I heard tonight so far, that parcel is going to be eliminated from the plan. So those comments would be a moot point at that juncture. The proposed infiltration basins look like they're within 50 feet of the wetlands, which is not in conformance with the Mass Stormwater Handbook. So there needs to be a greater setback to the stormwater features. And then there was a proposed spur, like a little section of road that headed towards parcel 12D on the plan. And it looked like maybe it was going to be used for a future extension of the roadway. You know, if that's the case, I guess my recommendation would be to remove that. It sounds like Bill's already kind of planning on removing that anyways. So that might be kind of an old comment at this point. And I think finally, to provide the proposed horizontal baseline information, including radii of the horizontal curves.
Okay, I'd like to, if I could, respond to some of those comments. We definitely will provide the stormwater report as we revise the plans based on comments from the Conservation Commission. We are relocating, reshaping the basins as well. We are eliminating that spur, as I mentioned, and we're shortening the road about by 75 or 80 feet. The zone 3, I believe you only have to file for the special permit if you're over 15% of total area being impervious. I've calculated the impervious area for the entire project to be, with 10 lots, to be about 6%, 6.5. Should be less when we drop it down to 9 or possibly 8 lots, if that be the case. It will be even less impervious area. So we may be exempt from having to file for special permit under that guideline. Definitely check that out. We'll be sure to file if we need to. The water, yeah, again, right now we're proposing wells, and we will be locating a cistern if we cannot get fire, town water and fire hydrants in the project. I know, say, Mike and Kevin are working on that right now. We hope to have that resolved as soon as possible, so we can move forward. The center line and all the other issues that were brought up, we're going to correct in the revised preliminary plan as soon as we get some more feedback from the conservation. Again, we're really kind of being held up a little bit by conservation, but have not been able to have any hearings or site walks. We're hoping on the 13th we can resolve that and get that moving. And once we get that resolution, we'll be able to finalize the preliminary plan to address all TEC's concerns and the conservation concerns.
Okay, Bill, I'm looking at, if I've got this right plan here, thanks, Pete, for the 12D. Now, what's this parcel 13G? What the heck is that about?
Okay, 13G and 13H are both part of the property right now. The whole parcel is 19.8 acres. 13G, because this is in zone 3, we have to, and they're 30,000 square foot lots. In order to get 4-bedroom houses, we have to have a nitrogen sensitive area compensation. We're going to be using that 13G as compensation area for the extra 10,000 square feet of area needed to have 4 bedrooms for each lot. That was the intent of that. So that'll be, there'll be a restriction on that parcel, permanent restriction on that parcel for septic purposes. 13H has frontage on Center Street and King Street. There was potential for development down there. We're still looking at that, coming on the outcome of the wetland line. We may move forward with a proposal plan on that lot if things work out for it. It's too early yet to tell if we're going to be able to do anything on that lot.
So you've got on 13G, that's 10 acres.
I think it's close to that, yeah.
All right. So in following with the subdivision regs, have you done a max build out on these parcels together?
What's that again?
Have you done a max build out on this?
Well, I think 10 would be the max, but it's going to drop down to 8. We really can't.
No, I mean including the other parcels with this future build out, because we got to see what this. That's and let me just back up to just a second though. This plan is really perfect for the conceptual because you're going to be doing a lot of changes, and it would have saved you a little bit of money. But from the board's perspective, this is where we can help guide the thing back and forth a little bit, save some time all around. So I'm not sure why the applicant chose not to go through the conceptual process, but you're kind of there. But in that conceptual too, also you got to bring forth the max build out. So you got 10 on this one. What's the other potential for the other lots?
For 13G, nothing. No
All right,
potential
so
at all.
13G is 10 acres of nothing.
Yep, it's got some upland, but there's no way we can get septics in there for
Right.
the buffer zone. There's an intermittent stream that runs through both 13G and 13H. 13H potentially could be developed as a single family lot or potentially double duplex multifamily lot.
Yeah.
Has the area and has the frontage. The issue with that is also the wetlands. So the potential for 13H is it's a single lot right now that may be multifamily or maybe nothing at all. It's really not determined yet because of the wetlands line and the stream. We believe it's an intermittent stream. There was some talk about it being a perennial stream. We think we have the evidence to show that it's not. So that's one of the things we need to fine tune with conservation as well as the line.
It's very wet back there. I'm sure the residents, when they chime in here shortly, will verify that. I mean, that area is very wet, and that was the same issue the previous owner had when they brought before the board. Like we said, almost 20 years ago. It's very substantially wet, and then some of the other parcels really support almost like a ponding back there at certain times. So that was the dilemma that they had as well. So if you took all the properties, put them together, you'd still only have 9.
Well, 9. Well, right now we have 10. It'll probably be 9 or possibly 8 in the actual subdivision. And
Yeah.
An A&R naturally, an A&R plan we did for the current house.
Yeah.
So that would be 9 or 10, depending on how you look at it. And then the 13H, once we get the feedback from the conservation, it could be a lot or it could be nothing. It really depends on our setbacks and how much room we have to do perk testing and put structures and buildings up on the lot. It's pretty tight, so we're looking at it right now, but we don't really have a good handle on whether it can be developed or not. So it may end up being that line between 13H and 13G may end up being dissolved, and it may all be just 13G and be a little larger lot that will have the nitrogen loading restriction on it, which is required to get 4-bedroom designs for the remaining lots.
Okay, so all the land put together is 30 plus acres?
Nope, it's 19.7 acres. There's approximately 9 acres being developed with the, as it is proposed right now.
Yeah,
That will be reduced a little bit because of the parcel 12, which is not going to be included. And then I think the remaining area is about 10 acres remaining. So it's about 10 acres in parcel 13G and 13H, which is essentially right now not buildable. Potentially 13H, but that's still not clear to determine. And then King Meadow Drive, or the development of the 9-10 lots, is going to be approximately 9 acres total area.
okay. And for the purpose of just, what made the applicant and decide not to follow the subregs out of the box with the 750 road length, just to even show what that plan looked like? Why was that not even entertained?
I think they were trying to maximize the number of lots they could possibly get.
Yeah, well, that kind of showed the
waivers-
disrespect for the reg, but I'll tell you why that's in there. We have, and for those of you that live on Rocky 1, 2, 3, or whatever, we have found out that through the fire department of years ago, and Stonebridge too, that was another one that was a big issue. If anybody's watching from Stonebridge, was that we determined that 750 feet was the max road length with no way out. And for instance, and that started with the Rocky 1, 2, because there's power lines that shoot through, or you're separated by a wetland. And if a natural disaster would happen, no one could get out. And so Stonebridge in particular has an emergency access road, if anybody knows it. And that's what that was for, going through. So it kind of split it up. So and Bill, you know the reg pretty well. I'm pretty sure the applicant, building in town for a long time, knows it as well. But I just wanted on the record that it shows an aggressive move to maximize building, and that reg's been in place a long time. Now, if you have another way out, that's a different story. We like to loop systems like water systems. And then I'm glad the water department's looking into this fire protection. How close is that hydrant up there on King Street to the entrance down?
I have to double check. I think it's fairly close. It's I think it's just north of the entrance.
Yeah,
And
I think
there's also one about halfway down from King Street down to Center Street.
it's right on top of the hill, right? He's not
Yeah.
too far. He's not too far from the entrance. I know where the hydrant is there.
Yeah, that's good. And I think it was actually busing that brought that up there, maybe in conjunction with the water department a couple of decades ago.
Busing had nothing to do with that. Busing had nothing to do with that water line or nothing.
Okay, yeah, because, well, in the regulation was back then that if you were within so many feet, you had to bring it in and then extend it between, 500 feet and 1,000 down the road. So if there's a way to loop that system for the water department, fire protection up in that area, and of course, drinking water, I think that's a pretty good aspect for the board to look at in conjunction with the water department. How do we make that happen? But if you can't if you're on wells and you have, let's say, anywhere from 6 to 9 houses in there without fire protection, that becomes a problem and the board should be looking at that as well. But hopefully that'll work its way out.
So Wally, can I just speak for a second?
Yeah.
So I think, why don't we let them go back to conservation? And I think the water department, Bob, didn't they come in, Wally, you were flying, to address some of this stuff?
Yeah.
So I think I would let them hash it out with the water department now. I'd let them go back to conservation and hash it out with them, and then let them design, and see what they come up with and seek the waivers, and we move forward. Or I don't think we should be kind of designing the plan.
I agree with you. That's where the conceptual was, is always pretty good. But I agree with you there, because they're going to have to come back if it moves or not. And it sounds like it's already moved one parcel. Everything's got to get redesigned. It's just wasting everybody's time. But I think that, I don't know how many residents are on Rebecca, I don't know if you can see that, but I think we got some input that at least we should get it on the record and see if anybody can answer questions. Bob, if you want to, you're steering the ship.
Yep. Rebecca, if you want to drop the map for a second, go back to the homepage and we have any public comments, please state your name and address and go ahead. All
So
right.
is there any residents there? I guess.
Doesn't sound like there's any residents on the meeting yet.
Yeah. Did, Rebecca, did we get any input?
I'm sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button.
Oh,
I
okay.
was with you there for a couple minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is Paul Kench. I'm at 118 King Street. And I have a few questions. And if you just bear with me, I'll just kind of go through these. Is that how you want me to proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay. 104 King Street, which is also part of the planning board application. Now, this might be answered by, well, I'm going to let you answer it, Mr. Holt.
Actually, that was probably an open. Are we still there?
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We are going to eliminate the parcel on 104 King Street, so that's going to be moot point after we revise the plans. But yes, it should have been included. It was part of a 61A removal. That 2 acres that was coming off of 104.
Yeah.
But it will no longer be part of the project once we revise the plans.
Okay. All right. Second question. Signature on the application for approval of a preliminary plan indicates Kevin Knuff at 211 Seven Star Road in Groveland was submitted to Elizabeth Knuff, town clerk, and stamp received posted. Has Elizabeth Knuff, town clerk, and spouse of Kevin disclosed this conflict of interest in regards to the financial benefit of the proposed subdivision?
I couldn't answer that. This is the first time I've seen this, so.
Yeah, me too. Likewise.
Is there a conflict of interest to start there? Should have the wife refused to submit it on behalf of the husband?
Well, Rebecca, can you answer that? Is that a conflict?
So the town clerk is an elected official. So if there's any question in terms of any ethical violations, then they would be reported and addressed by the State Ethics Commission. So that question is really for the State Ethics Commission and whether or not there is a violation and whether or not a disclosure should have taken place. Because she is an elected official, she does not report to the Board of Selectmen or any other boards.
And I believe what she just timestamped it, I don't think there's any financial gain on a timestamp,
Me either.
you know,
No, but it,
to be quite
for
honest.
guys, remember that we've all, had to float stuff to the Ethics Commission. It's a simple form I think you just fill out because it may not be a conflict, but it sometimes appears to be an appearance of a conflict, and they can bless it pretty quickly. So I think perhaps, Kev, are you on this call?
Or are you muted, Kevin, by any chance?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Okay. If the clerk has submitted to the Ethics Commission just that form, just to get them
I don't know. I don't know, but the plan was submitted to the planning board. The plan was not submitted to the town clerk. The town planning board submits the plan to the clerk to be time stamped in. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't
don't disagree with the protocol. It's just the, since that question came up, it's best addressed, with the clerk to just ask the Ethics Commission, hey, is this, I agree with you the way the flow went. It did go to the planning board and the planning board sent it over. But eventually a memorandum is going to get stamped by the clerk. And that's going to go up for the appeal period, somewhere down the line if this thing gets rolling. So it may be something to look into. All of us board members have had to submit stuff to the Ethics Commission. It's pretty streamlined process, and they just give you a letter back, says, no, you're good, or something like that.
If I may interrupt just once, that the statutory timeframes are based upon the time clerk stamp, not necessarily when the planning department takes in an application. Just like with any of the other applications, if you submit it and we do not act in a timely manner, that is based upon the clerk's timestamp. It is not based upon when we actually received it. All applications as dictated by the Mass General Law should be submitted to the town clerk.
Yeah, otherwise, then that's constructive approval, and then that, we're talking way down the line if that ever were to occur, and then the clerk has to endorse it. So that a very good question to raise, Mr. Kinch, and and I think it's something that, Kev, you're going to have to look into, and your bride, the clerk, and just get confirmation on that and put that issue to rest.
Well, I think the burden would be on the planning board, not on the town clerk. But
Negative. It's the person that has the appearance of the conflict that has to seek the approval, unless a complaint's filed, and then that's different. But but it is the person that's in the that's being highlighted that has to seek approval. It's very simple procedure. It actually, I think the clerk probably knows it. She's got a form in there somewhere. You just kind of submit it.
I will mention it to her.
Yeah, Kev, Bob, I would just have her submit it and everything. And it protects you too, everybody, and it's nothing.
I had to do it too, Kevin. It's easy.
I had to go through it myself. I think Brad did too. So
Yeah, I did it.
It
That's
just
fine. Whatever, we'll take care of it.
be fine,
Okay. Carry on, Ms. Kinch.
Okay, next question. What is the contiguous building area out of the 5-acre property development as it relates to the stormwater discharge?
I don't know what the contiguous building area out of the 5-acre. I'm not even sure what that means because it's actually 9 acres that we're developing. Actually, it's 19.8 acres we're developing, technically. It's the whole parcel. I don't know what the CBA is of the whole property, but I know what they are for each lot. It's required minimum 60% of the required area. As it relates to stormwater, I don't even know why that is related. So I'll think about that. I can't really answer it right now. I'm not really sure what the question is.
Okay, it may, maybe the person from TEC might have some insight or into what, or explain what I'm getting at here, but I'll move on to the next bullet here. May we require a cut fill analysis be completed to ensure compliance on the material export prohibition?
I believe, actually, I believe TEC did mention that that is a requirement in their review letter, and we will be, as we move into the definitive stage, we probably would not do it here at the preliminary stage. When we move into the next stage, we would do the calculations for that.
Okay. Next point, in reference to the waiver on section 5.6.3 of the application, does an existing culvert and drainage pond already exist?
The waiver for 5.6.3 is actually, we're requesting to use plastic HDPE pipe versus concrete pipe. As far as an existing culvert and drainage pond already on the property, There is a pond down on King Street that I believe actually straddles both your property, the Kinch property, and the King Meadow property. But we're not touching that. We're not doing anything with that. There's a culvert that goes across the street, across King Street. But I do not believe there are any culverts on the property, as far as I know.
Right. Has King Meadow Development LLC filed any notices with the Massachusetts state agencies, for example, Mass DEP?
We did send in an RDA back when we filed it. I believe we sent it in. I believe it was mailed.
Okay. And that's it. All right. Has King Meadow Development LLC sent the town of Groveland a notice of first refusal on the properties located at 106 King Street?
I believe I'd have to let the applicant answer that. I don't believe the property is in 61A, so there'd be no right of first refusal required for 106 King Street.
That's correct.
And what information exists and can be provided concerning future development phases of 104 King Street?
Right now, there is no plan to develop 104 King Street. We were originally going to take 2 acres out of it. But again, we're eliminating that, so there'll be no potential future development from this development, as far as I can see, because we're not providing a extension onto that property.
Okay. And I believe that's the end of my questions.
All right.
All right.
Bill, was any of the of the 18 acres, was any of it a long time ago in 61A? Because there used to be a horse farm itself.
I'm not familiar with that. It probably could very likely have been. I believe, well, I guess I let Kevin and Mike speak on that. When they bought the property, I don't think it's under 61A anymore. So
Okay.
had it been, I'm not sure.
Not that we know of.
Okay. All right. And Kevin, Mike, what happened to the four parcel mini horse farms that was initially pitched for this property? What happened to those discussions? They fell apart, or are they still
Never
there?
saw it. Never saw it, never heard of it.
When
Really?
did that happen, Polly? I've never even heard of four horse farms going up there. All I remember is one big one out behind there. I've never heard of
Yeah. It was a while back. It was when the
it. Had to
plan was-
be.
Yeah. When the plan was first submitted, and that was started around, and then over the years, as you know, movement has tried to happen with the lot. One of the things that surfaced that also looked at the into putting into, besides 61A, but also to generate very large properties and waivers and to shorten up the road base and everything else. So, and that was one of the fixes. They were going to be pitched by the developers as a house with 2 acres each about, and your own little fencing pin for horses, since I guess there's a couple of farms in the area, the cattle farm, the horse farm, etc. So that was talked within 5 years. I just wondered whatever happened to it, because that seemed like a pretty good idea to keep farms in the town.
When we bought the property, they gave us all the plans that they had, or this is what they told us. They were all the plans that they had, and there was no such plan that describes anything that you're talking about.
Yeah,
So I never saw anything like it.
That doesn't surprise me with the plans, because once Taylor came in, and we fully expected them back within a couple of years with something, but I think they ran into some serious issues with some of the abutters too. So I don't know what happened to it. It just seemed like a really good idea because they wanted to keep some of it as farms. That answers that, I guess. So, Bob, any other
Any other neighbors or butters on that want to speak? No? Bill, do you have anything else to say?
I don't. I think it, a continuance would probably be in order so we could revise the plans, as noted in the TEC memo and what we heard tonight. We can revise the plans and get them back to Rebecca so that TEC can review them again, and then we can come back for another meeting to discuss the revised plans.
I'm for that.
Yeah, Bob, based on
Right.
Brad's thoughts there, and I agree with him, why don't we kick this hearing out so they can get everything done through conservation too? And at least when we come back, we'll
Yeah,
we'll have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, hold on. I was just gonna ask the owners, I mean, you guys wanna have a little more time for conservation? You mind? You wanna, or do you wanna keep going with it?
Well, obviously, we want to keep it going, but
Yeah.
I do think that conservation, we need to settle some issues over there as well as settle the issue with the water.
Right,
So certainly, those two things, we're working on both of them. Hopefully, things will start to move forward.
so I mean, even if we skip one meeting and then have you on the agenda for the next, would that be all right with you?
Yeah, I would think that's okay with me. I don't know, Mike.
That's fine. That'll move everything forward a little bit more. We'll have better answers.
Yeah, we'll have a definitive plan, what the lots are, how many
Right.
they're gonna be, and hopefully everybody's all happy by then.
And hopefully we can meet in the town hall too, so we can see it all.
See a big plan.
Yeah, you never know, so, but, that with you too, Bill? They give you
Yes.
some time?
That sounds fair. Yep.
Okay, Peter, what about you?
Yep, Pete.
That sounds great to me.
How about Rebecca?
We will need a signed continuance. The continuance that we have signed and timestamped is only valid until today's date, May 5th.
Yeah.
If you send it over to me, Rebecca, I'll get it right back to you tomorrow.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, guys.
So
Thank
we
you.
go into are you going in an extension to the end of July, or what are you doing with this one?
Rebecca, what would be our next meeting after the one coming up? This one?
So the next meeting will be June 2nd, and I would advise that we continue to a meeting date. It doesn't necessarily have to be June 2nd, it can be later, but we always should continue to an actual meeting date.
Right,
I'd say if they get lucky with conservation and they can pull it together with Bill, maybe they want to come in June to keep the ball rolling, you know what I mean? So I would give them the date of June 2nd. If they can't do it, we just continue it to the next date. You guys all right with that, Mike and Kevin?
Yeah, that to me seems like that would be acceptable.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Yeah,
whole month
it's,
away at this point.
right.
It's less than 30 days.
Yeah, but it still gives them time to pull it together. Maybe, maybe conservation, they get the walkthrough. Bill can pull it together with a plan, and that way they don't have to miss a month. And if they miss it, we just continue it to the next meeting. No big deal, I don't think.
So basically what you're saying is give them 30 days to see how advanced they can move on this. If they're not completed, then we give them another 30 days.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, typical planning board protocol was when the applicant has to ask for the extension, which we, by the way, have to vote on, and we always give it because it's the best thing to do. And typically they do it, I like Rebecca's thinking on that, but typically unless it's something that we just need a week for, it typically goes out 90 days to give the applicant the time. We can close at any time in there. It's not like it has to stay open that long, but it gives the applicant, the engineers, and everybody else to keep doing these extension letters all the way through. And if you're giving them 26 days to get conservation approval, plans revised, Peter on board, and then all the stuff submitted, that's a tight.
Yeah, but I would caution this. So they've already been trying to get conservation. So conservation also has to get on board quicker than they have, I would think. We're in unprecedented times. So if they can do it, yay. If they can't do it, I mean, I see what you're saying. Typically we give them 90 days, but it looks like they've already wasted some time with conservation and they're not just getting it, they're not getting it done.
Well, that's for us too, because we have to now see the plan, get it reviewed, hear it, and then go through. But it doesn't matter. It's the applicant that submits the request.
My only suggestion is just to clarify, is that what Walter is saying is that the actual timed stamped letter can be longer than what the motion is to continue. So there's two
Correct.
separate matters. There's one is asking the applicant to provide more time in a written extension that would be timestamped by the clerk, but at the same time, legally, the board must continue to a specified meeting date in order to continue the meeting properly.
Correct.
Okay,
She's got it. Yeah. So motion to go to June 2nd for the hearing, and then the applicant is gonna, what is his date for the request of the, request to push the time out, the time clock out? I mean, because you got to get everybody's input in. It
I mean,
could
it's
be
already
shorter.
expires today, so he already needs the extension. So the idea is, are we gonna give him a 30-day extension to come back to see where he is in progress, or do we just give him the full 90? If he does it in 60, then we'll just close it at that point.
Yeah,
Well,
that's exactly how that works.
I guess what everyone's saying, let's just agree and just keep it consistent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Rebecca's right. You got two things. We got to you got to apply a motion to go to the next hearing date, whatever that is. And then the applicant's got to submit something to request an extension, and we vote on it, which we can do right now. So the applicant, since everybody's here, what date would you like the board to extend the application till? June 30, July 31, whatever you want, request it. And I think, Rebecca, we can do that under the governor's law right now, because nothing's in person. Is that legal?
So yes, under the executive order, the statutory timeframe is a little bit more flexible than it typically is. But for notice requirements, you always need to continue to a specified date. So those haven't necessarily been relaxed at all. It's more
Right.
of the statutory timeframes.
Okay.
Okay, so Rebecca, you said that it expires today. You're sending it out. He's gonna sign it and deliver it to you tomorrow. What is the time frame you're giving him on that initial letter?
It's whatever the applicant will agree to, because he doesn't necessarily need to, I mean, he has to request the extension and we grant the extension. So we can't exactly say you have to. We can be forced to make a decision if we need to make a decision because they're not being accommodating, but per the law, they have to be the one to propose the date.
So
Correct.
go for the 90-day extension and put us on for June 2nd. It's fine with me.
You know what I mean?
Okay, there you go.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
So
That's
simple.
the applicant, I take it.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
So motion.
Brad, can you somebody make a motion so I can,
Yeah.
we have a motion on the table?
So motion to grant the applicant a 90-day extension of the preliminary filing.
Second, Brad.
Jim?
I concur.
You gotta call the vote.
Yep.
So Wally, aye on the vote.
Brad, aye on the vote.
Bob, aye on the vote. Jim?
I on the vote.
Okay, 90-day extension. Now we need a
90-day
motion
extension.
for June 2nd. Is that our next meeting date, Rebecca?
The next meeting date is actually May 19th, but the meeting date following that would be June 2nd.
Okay, so motion to extend the public hearing to June 2nd, 2020.
Yep.
I second that.
Okay,
I agree.
Yep.
okay, Wally, aye on the vote.
Yep.
Brad, aye on the vote.
Jim on the vote.
Aye.
So, okay, motion approved.
Okay, hearing continued to June 2nd.
Great, good job.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, what's
Thanks.
up next?
Okay, the next two public hearings will be continued into May 19th.
Okay.
Groveland ZBA reconfiguration, town meeting warrant article to consider proposed amendments to the Groveland zoning bylaws. Do I have a motion?
So motion.
Do I have a second?
Second. I second, Brad.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Brad.
Wally? Okay,
Aye,
Wally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brad?
Yes, aye.
Yes.
Brad.
Jim?
Aye.
Bob, aye. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, next thing is, number 3 is new Groveland subdivision rules and regs. To consider proposed amendments to the subdivision rules and regs. So those are the two, I'm sorry. That was it. That was,
The second one.
yes, it was the second one.
All right, so
So-
motion.
Yeah, no,
Second.
we were all set on that one, so,
Okay,
all right. So we'll
All right.
move down. Discussion and proposal vote. Benjamin Street Extension to Hulu Homes. Discussion, construction, monitoring, and report data. April 2nd, 2020.
okay, so this is the new information and the continued, what we were talking about last week? And didn't we kick that out?
So my understanding is that the applicant is going to, and the board voted for a modification to take place on May 19th. However, the applicant at that time had mentioned that they may want to continue some of the site work, not necessarily the roadway work, and had asked for the board to review that at this meeting. But I've come to my attention that the applicant does not want to proceed with any work until after the public hearing on the 19th. And the applicant is on the call if they want to speak up, so I don't believe there is any update in that regard. However, I'm so sorry for the background noise.
I think it's funny.
Yeah, me too.
But
Brings back memories.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But the abutter did have their property surveyed, and their surveyor had mentioned that they did want to be on the call. I don't know if they are. I don't see their name popping up, but they did want to clarify what they had found out in the field. So I think it's at the board's decision as to how they want to proceed. And if, sorry, Dina or Steve DeHulu, if you are on the line, if you want to speak up now, that would be great too.
I am here, but you were right. We did decide that we aren't going to continue with anything until after the hearing.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, and is, John, Paulson, have you spoken to TEC about whatever it is that you've been working on there? So are all the engineers in the loop?
I have a copy of their survey results and I will review them. I believe I show very similar results, so I don't think there's any dispute with the Atlantic survey at this point.
Okay, and Paul, Peter?
Yeah, I haven't spoken with John directly, but I did receive a copy of his plan yesterday, and it seems to be consistent with the revised plan that we received from Bill. So, with the exception of one area to the north of the new proposed street, where there's a second area of encroachment called out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right. So, so I imagine you three engineers are going to be working together, and then so everybody's ready for the 19th to come up with some solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm willing to meet at the site if needed. If Peter wants to talk, or if John Paulson wants to talk, I can meet at the property.
Okay. John, is that meet up with you and your client?
I don't think he's actually on the call here, Wally.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, I don't see
All right.
him.
So, all right. So that fixes that then. So the engineers, I guess you guys, Peter and Bill, work together. Somebody call John, and we'll hear from you on the 19th, I guess.
Okay.
You have anything else to say, Dina?
Nope, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, no.
right.
That was easy.
Move on to the next one. Let's see. 245 Center Street, Heather Kowalski, requesting for a reduction in the requirements of the memorandum of decisions issued December 3rd, 2019.
Reduction in the what?
I think she's looking to have the bond waived.
What's a
Heather?
waive?
Yes.
The $50,000 bond?
Yeah, that's a, well,
That's a
do you
tough
even
one.
have any roadway? Has a bond been submitted, the construction costs and all that stuff?
The construction cost has not been submitted, but we felt that we're not a developer, this is, a driveway. The way I understood it, talking to Mitch Croner, was that that money would ensure that we install the road correctly. And if not, then you guys could use that money to fix the road if we made any mistakes on it.
I think the stormwater is also the stormwater management part of it.
There is.
And
So-
utilities, and it's actually everything, but we don't even know what the bond is, because if you haven't submitted the construction costs for the board to take the number, submit it to TEC to see if it's accurate, and then we typically add our 25% to it to even come up with a number to set the bond. So where are we in that process? And it is a subdivision, as much as it's not, I know it seems like a driveway, but it's actually a subdivision, and that is part of the subdivision requirement.
One lot subdivision.
Yeah. So
The board did in fact set a bond, and it was included as part of the memorandum of decision. It was discussed at the planning board meeting as to what that amount should be. And I believe TEC, Pete Ellison, was there to say that it was based upon, again, as Brad had mentioned, the stormwater infrastructure, and then also the erosion control that would be necessary for the site.
So where are we with that? Has it been submitted so we can review it to find out what the number actually is?
Didn't we agree on something like, wasn't it a low number, like 40 or 50,
It
Rebecca?
was it's 50,000.
Yeah, we actually said it at the actual at the public hearing when we were doing the decision. We actually then, in fact, stated it would be $50,000.
Okay, and does that, Pete, does that meet everything that needs to be done? Because that's typically what it's only for all the, the road work, the water, everything that needs to be done up there. Is that?
Yeah, I think it came to 50 based on the requirements for erosion control and stormwater, like we talked about mostly.
Yeah.
Because the road's not, the board granted waivers, so they don't have to build the road perfect per, the subdivision regs. There was a lot of.
Yeah,
waivers.
that part makes sense. But
Yeah.
what's the total cost of the construction? And does anybody even know what the actual number is?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if the meeting was recorded, but I'm pretty sure we talked through it during the meeting
Okay.
to come up with that 50K number that we're talking about.
So how the 50K can be put up in typically it's done with the cash passbook, and then as the milestones are done, the money actually goes back to the applicant. So, or it's a tripart or something like that. So in other words, if you put the water in and the road in, the guy that puts the road in goes down, submits it to the board, and you walk over together with the town accountant and actually withdraw the funds.
So actually, there's
That's not
also,
the way it's written, though. It says until the as-built plan is provided.
that's the final
Yeah,
release.
there's a residual. You're right. There's a residual amount that's held until the as-built is submitted to the town, but that's not the full 50.
Oh, okay.
It gets whittled down as you go. You submit witdraws on.
We can release payments to you
Yeah.
to certain points.
You also can go, Heather, you can also, I believe I just did this for my project. So I had a bond, right, Bob?
Yes.
And I felt the same way, before I hit the board, I felt the same way that you guys do. And I believe I went through an insurance agency, and you can, I think a $45,000 or $50,000 bond was like $1,000. And then
Okay.
they put up the bond. And it
Okay.
renews every year.
I'm
So,
kind of
Now-
uneducated with all this. I've never done this before, so.
and that,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and
that's-
if that helps, you know,
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah,
question
just-
I had was on 51. It says the endorsement of the plan approved by the planning board shall be valid for a period of 3 years from the date of the filing by the planning board. Does that mean I have to finish the house in 3 years for it to be valid?
You know, once you start, you get extensions. Is that a subdivision is 7, but the A&R against protective zoning is 3. But I guess I missed the first part of that. What reference is that for? Once you start the subdivision, yeah, typically you got 3 years to do it, or you come in for and request an extension.
Okay,
And I don't think we've denied one yet. In, you know, my 27 years there, we've always granted that going through. I mean, look at Sunset for 2 reasons. One, that thing went on it's still going on. And that's where the bond came in, because we had a lot of issues out there. Now, granted, it wasn't a single lot subdivision, but we had a lot of issues. And had we not had a cash bond, there was no impetus to get that subdivision complete. So it is important and it is required. And if you have a bank to give you a bond or something like that, we see those too. There's three ways you can get that acceptance. It's in the mass reg, subdivision reg, on how it is. And then get it reduced as you go. And it's our job on the board to get you through the reg, and you just got a couple of solutions right there. So you meet the reg, and then we're giving you the explanation as to why it's there. Just drive around town. There's been a couple of those, and I'm so happy that we stuck to our guns on that, because we were able to get those subdivisions completed for the town and also for the future residents. And there's a few Applecrest off of Center Street with a fellow named Rocco back in the late 80s, early 90s, and the town actually had to pay a pretty penny. I think it was close to $100,000 to actually finish that subdivision, because there was no bond put down. So that's why we on the board stick to that pretty heavily.
even with private land.
It's the
Like-
same. It's a subdivision.
Yeah.
If you were doing an A&R, it's different. But once you go through the subdivision process, it's a subdivision, no matter how many lots it is. So, but it's an easy fix for you. You're not really doing a whole lot of stuff there.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Brad, for that input.
you're welcome. Yeah, so let's say something happens, you start, and then you stop, and you leave. The town has to put it back together. Otherwise, what happens? It protects the town.
Heather, it just protects everybody. Protects you too.
Yeah.
Protects the town and the planning board.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Well, thank you.
like you said, once you get going, you get things rolling, you could come in and steps and reduce it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right, have a good night.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next one is 185 Main Street, cell tower. Jerry Squares, on behalf of T-Mobile Northeast, request for a extension for approval site plan.
How long is the extension?
So, I'm requesting that it be extended. It's already past the year. It was granted on January 8th, and I'm asking that it be granted till an additional year.
So you're expired?
Yes.
And what was the reason for the expiration?
In the email I sent over, I talk about, well, there's a couple things at the meeting.
One of them, sorry to interrupt, but I read the email. It sounded like I put all your projects on hold for a little while.
Yes.
I mean,
Right after the meeting, one of the issues was we needed to change from diesel fuel, and it took us a while. We were trying to get natural gas to the location, and it was determined that it would have to come from the main street, and that wasn't really feasible. So it took us a couple months to figure out that we wanted to go we were going to go with propane gas, which was one of the items that the water board, the water department allowed us to do. And then, we were recorded the decision, we were getting ready, and there was a big interruption in all of T-Mobile's projects for about 6 or 7 months while they were going through a merger or a purchase of,
Right.
of another cell carrier. That hold really just came off in the middle of March.
All right. So this is a special permit, if I remember right?
It's a site plan approval.
Site plan review?
Yeah.
And we approved it a year ago.
Yes.
And this is our tower, isn't it? Isn't it down on town
It's on
hall
town
property?
property,
At Town
yes.
Hall, baseball fields, that, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And the town gets a collection point from that, I believe, right? Town benefits from that?
I would assume so. The landlord I deal with is SBA,
Yeah,
the tower
Yeah.
owner.
right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so there's fees paid somewhere down the line to the town. And it was just the merger, or did it have anything to do with the rest of the chaos in the rest of the world right now?
No, it was just the merger. Sprint,
Mhm.
T-Mobile purchased Sprint.
But what would be the date you needed extended to, a year from now? Or,
I was requesting it to be extended an additional year, which would, put us at January.
okay.
Does he have to refile? Does he have to refile?
Under site review and special permit, I don't think so, because it's the flavor of the board, although somebody should have been watching that. But we are in unprecedented times, and it is a town site. SBA is they've been a long time landlord, so to speak. I believe, Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think it's the flavor of the board at this point in time. Did they submit a formal request for an extension? That was what was in the email?
Yes, so the special permit is still valid, and that was issued by the Zoning Board of Appeals when everything was still going on. But the site plan approval under section 13.8 is, as you stated, kind of vaguely written in terms of whether or not, if it's expired, you could actually extend it. It just mentions
Right.
extension kind of loosely.
Right.
So, I guess, like you said, it really is kind of the flavor of the board and whether or
Right.
not they want to do that.
So let's fly a motion to extend it to January 1, 2021.
Could we possibly do the actual date of the decision, which would be January 8th?
Yes.
Well, what was it again, Rebecca? The date?
It would be January 8th, 2021.
Was that the
January.
timestamp date, or was that just the approval date?
That would be the approval date.
Okay. Do we know the timestamp date? Was that like the next day? Sometimes that goes a couple weeks.
It is. It's this right here, January.
Yeah,
9th. It's not timestamped. It's signed by Ann Brody.
Yeah, she didn't timestamp it?
Oh, actually,
She had some, she didn't timestamp it when I submitted it to strike the clock because the timestamp wasn't working, but it is her initials and the date 1/9/2020.
All right, so there it is. So motion corrected for the extension till January 9, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Wally.
All
Brad.
right, Wally?
Aye, Wally, yeah.
Aye, Brad.
Bob, yes. So you're all set, sir.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep us advised, please,
Thank you.
and good luck. Okay,
Okay,
what else you got,
Brad.
Bob?
Yeah, I got a couple more, and we can turn ourselves off. Groveland Self-Storage, Nelson Street, Bradley Hills, requesting of a bond reduction.
Okay, so I'm leaving the board and coming in as myself.
Wait a second, I didn't see you leave.
Hold on.
Okay,
All right.
all right.
So as Rebecca can attest, we've pretty much stabilized the site with grass mats. We got grass growing. It's all loom seeded. Waiting on, you know, the popcorn or porous paving and the berm. So we're a non-essential business, and we've basically been shut down with this COVID thing. And I guess the plants are having a problem, paving plants. I know there's paving going wrong, but the Saugus plant is the one that does the popcorn or the porous. And I've been having really trouble getting the guy over there.
How about
Is it because of lack of material that they have?
This COVID thing is scaring the dickens out of everybody. So they shut down. People aren't coming in. They're not able to make the mix. They need a,
Right.
like, I guess they need a special team to make the mix. That's what my understanding is from my paver, who's already done the paving.
Yeah,
They got shut down in December when they paved.
yeah.
And so I'm at the mercy of
Yeah,
my
so it's all
paver.
to yours.
But, you know, I just wanted to bring it up. You know, we're in pretty good,
Brad, how about the fire hydrant?
I'm not gonna plan on doing that probably until October. I really have nobody in there. There's nothing to catch on fire. You know, I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see when I can reopen
Yep.
and start putting some people in. Russell, right now I've been shut down for about 6 or 7 weeks, not taking any applications or not receiving any applications, any phone calls.
So
Yep.
what are we holding? What are you asking for? And what does Peter think?
I'm gonna leave it to the mercy of the board, I guess. I mean, I just want to show you that.
What are we holding?
We are
40?
holding, oh, I thought it was 50. No, 40. That's correct.
40?
Okay, Pete? Peter still with us here?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yep.
What's,
Yeah,
What
I
do you
think I think they've made progress on the site. Like you said, it's stabilized at this point, so I'd be, you know, comfortable reducing it for sure.
okay, what number?
See if I can bring something up here. I
What were
haven't
you
done
thinking, Brad, of a number?
I don't know. I'm gonna leave it to you guys.
Very good.
Installation of the hydrant is probably gonna run 20,
Right.
you know? That's the big number.
Yep.
I'd say, you know, I would ask, tweak it down 10. I want to show the bond company that we're going in the right direction.
I was just gonna say, would you be comfortable if we hold 30?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just want to show the bond company we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming up for re-up for a bond.
So you're happy with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
All right, let's see what.
Everybody else happy? Pete?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
All right, there we
Jim?
go. So
I'm happy
motioned,
with that.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
so motioned, to reduce it down 10,000, holding 30.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did we
Okay,
get a second?
Wally?
Wally, aye.
Yeah. Jim?
I'll second it. Aye.
Yeah. And Bob? Aye. So all set.
All right, I guess, Rebecca, you'll draft something and send it to me and that bond, my bond company.
I can send a letter to the gentleman I've been communicating with, I believe, but I'll make sure to CC you on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay,
what else we got?
We got approve the April 21st meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So motion.
Second.
Jim?
Second favor.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Wally? Yep.
Aye.
Jim?
Yep. Aye.
Yes.
Bob? Yes. Okay. Outstanding invoices. Approval for outstanding invoices. Do I have a motion?
So
So
motion.
motion.
We actually don't have any outstanding.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we don't have any because I don't have any numbers in front of me, else I'd be reading them, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no motion.
Okay.
Cancel that motion. Cancel the motion.
Cancel the motion. All right. I think that's it. Peter, you have anything to say? You're all set?
All set. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Pete.
Yep.
Okay.
Anybody else that's on? Have anything?
Nah, Good job
Couple
tonight,
of
guys. I mean, this
Yeah, be
is gonna get
safe.
tough.
Okay. Motion to adjourn and be safe.
Yep.
Second. Thank
All in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, adjourn at 8:22. Guys,
Good
Good
night,
night,
guys.
everybody.
yep,
Good night,
thank you.
all. Good night,
See ya.
Sam.
Yep.
You bet.